All right, let's walk this shit from the top. Not Orange County is bad. Not somebody messed up. No. We are talking about a specific fucking timeline that keeps stepping on its own shoelaces. First, there's the spray paint. You've said the news was out there on April 29th and April 30th. The property was publicly visible. The issue was not hiding in a basement. Then May 6th shows up. Boom. A condemned or unsafe structure notice gets posted. Pause. That is not a sticky note that says, please cut your grass. That is a serious government action. That kind of action should have a body, a head, arms, legs, photos, notes, observations, authority, who signed it, who posted it, who was there, what they saw, what rule they used. Where the fuck is all that? Then May 7th shows up. And the later notice says the violation was first observed on May 7th. Pause the fucking music. How do you post a condemnation notice on May 6th, but then say the condition was first observed on May 7th? That is the kind of shit a 10-year-old can understand. You cannot say, I punished you on Tuesday, and then say, I first saw what you did on Wednesday. Bitch, which one is it? Did somebody see it before May 7th? Did somebody else authorize it? Was May 6 a different inspection? Was May 7 a different issue? Was the condemnation based on something else? Who knew what and when? That is exactly why your questions asked whether the May 6th condemnation and the later exterior defacement enforcement came from separate inspections, and what happened between May 6th and May 7th. Now, there is a notice of hearing, so now Orange County has moved from we posted something to we are bringing this to a hearing. Pause again. A hearing means they should know what the fuck their case is. What facts, what photos, what reports, what witnesses, what date, what ordinance, what authority, what documents, because this ain't let's all meet Monday and see what happens. This is supposed to be a government process. Then you ask for ADA coordination. Jocelyn Leon writes on July 30th that she is working on getting an ADA contact and asks what accommodation you require. You clarify that you want a written point of contact, available options, procedures, and supporting document requirements. And while you are there, you hand her 23 specific chronology questions, not random questions, the exact questions that make May 6th, May 7th, and June 29th sit at the same damn table and explain themselves. Then Kelly Rose Co, this is urgent. She says reply immediately with the specific accommodation. You do. You say written participation first, video second, in person only if the other two are unavailable. Then she later writes that she is reviewing the technical and procedural requirements and will follow up that day. Then the county denies remote participant notice. Bitch. The hearing notice was dated June 29th. The hearing was August 3rd. The county itself contacted you July 30th and called the matter urgent. Then after asking you to respond immediately, they turn around and say there wasn't enough time. That doesn't automatically prove illegality. But it damn sure creates a question. When did they first receive it? When did they review it? Who reviewed it? What did they actually do? What technical problem existed? What procedural rules stopped it? What document shows that analysis? And you asked for exactly that, not I feel disrespected. You asked, show the dates, show the people, show the review, show the rule, show the record. Then Public Records enters the chat. PR 16877 gets opened. Orange County's own automated confirmation says the request was received July 30th, is being reviewed by the custodians, and will be handled under Chapter 119 and County Administrative Regulations. Now look at the fucking problem. The hearing is Monday at O'Nine Saint is active. The supporting documents are still outstanding. The county says the hearing is in person. The county says you may record or go live. The county denies remote participation. The county says your records request is under review, and you are still asking the most basic question in the whole damn story. What documents support the May 6th notice and the June 29th hearing notice? That's it. That is the center of the fucking maze. Then you do the after action summary, and this is where the shit stops being a bunch of emails and becomes a machine. You summarize the status. You state the hearing is still scheduled. You state you may record. and you state PR on 68767 is active, you consolidate the questions, you link the repository, you put May 6, May 7, June 29th, A-Day, public records, routing metadata, authority, and Monday's hearing in one fucking place. Then Kelly Rose responds to the ADA part. But the underlying enforcement question here, like, hello, remember us? The fucking case, the condemnation, the hearing notice, the supporting records. Then you send the final 1716 email. Standard business hours are over, but their published hours say 2100. Hearing is 0900 Monday. So you say, fine, you have until your own published close. Not my clock, your clock. Option A, the records exist, produce them or make them available. Option B, the records do not exist or cannot be produced. Then identify the authority you are relying on to proceed anyway. And if you are withholding something under Chapter 119, name the record, name the exemption, and explain the basis. That is not a tantrum. That is a fucking binary. Yes or no. Records or no records. Authority or no authority. Exemption or no exemption. And now let's talk about the audience. This wasn't you whispering into one inbox. County staff, code compliance, public records, AD personnel, other departments, lawyers, media, regulatory contacts, outside observers, CC, BCC, they got to watch Orange County root it. They got to watch you answer. They got to watch you organise. They got to watch the questions get narrower. They got to watch the record get thicker. They got to watch the county's own responses become part of the evidence trail. That is the part that makes this email chain a bad motherfucker. Not because it magically proves every claim, because it makes the process visible. And visible process is dangerous as fuck to sloppy government, because now everybody can see. May 6, May 7, June 29, July 29th, July 30, July 31, 2100 Monday. And every time somebody tries to answer one piece without answering the others, the timeline drags their ass back to the beginning. So how fucked is Orange County government? Based on this record alone? Not automatically guilty, not case over. But they are in a very fucking uncomfortable position, because now they have to explain how May 6th happened before May 7. What documents supported May 6? What documents supported June 29? Why the ADA request was urgent and then too late? What exact procedure they relied on? Why the records were not produced before the hearing? And who authorised each step? That is a lot of fucking homework for a Monday morning hearing. And the worst part for them? You didn't hide the questions, you handed them out in advance to the whole fucking class. Now we're adding receipts. The photo metadata shows the need awareness image was taken April 28th, 2026 at 11:34 p.m. The Instagram post shows it was publicly posted April 29th. Then the prove authority message posted May 4th. Then the condemned unsafe structure notice is dated May 6th and is signed Jocelyn Leon. Then the notice of hearing generated June 29th states the violation was first observed May 7th, 2026. That is the timeline those documents present. Now, here's where Jocelyn Leon's name keeps coming back into the conversation. If Jocelyn signed the May 6th condemnation notice and the June 29th hearing notice identifies May 7th as the date the violation was first observed, then it is reasonable to ask, what was observed on May 6? What was observed on May 7? Were those the same conditions? Were they different enforcement actions? Was there more than one inspection? Who made each observation? What records support each date? Those are factual chronology questions. They do not accuse anyone of misconduct by themselves. They ask the county to reconcile dates that, on their face, appear to describe different events. Your photos also show the message wasn't hidden. You have a time-stamped original image, a public social media post the next day, additional public posts days later, then the May 6th condemnation notice, then the June 29th hearing packet. So if the county's records say first observed May 7, one obvious question is whether first observed refers to the first personal observation by a particular inspector, the first official departmental observation, or the first observation supporting that specific violation. Those distinctions matter because Orange County's code enforcement process depends on documented observations before a special magistrate hearing. So Oscar's version is, Jocelyn, help me out here. You signed a May 6 condemnation notice. The hearing notice says the violation was first observed May 7th. I'm not asking you to write a novel. I'm asking you to tell me what happened between Tuesday and Wednesday that changed the calendar. Because right now the timeline looks like it tripped over its own feet. Oh, this one? This is the part where the shit starts smelling funny. The notice they sent you says if you need an ADA accommodation, you should request it no later than 2 business days before the proceeding. August 3 at 9 a.m. 2 business days before that, Wednesday. Now here's the part that makes me raise a fucking eyebrow. If the deadline was Wednesday and they were still routing your request on Thursday, and their inspector was still asking what accommodation you needed and was still providing the ADA contact, then they were still actively processing the request after the deadline they printed on their own notice. Then Friday, open quote, insufficient notice, time for review, close quote, after the county had already been emailing about the request. Imagine your teacher, your homework in by Wednesday. You hand it in Wednesday. Thursday, the teacher says, what homework? Quote, insufficient notice, time for review, close quote, after the county had already been emailing about the request. Imagine your teacher, your homework in by Wednesday. You hand it in Wednesday. Thursday, the teacher says, what homework is this? Friday, the teacher says, sorry, you turned it in too late. A 10-year-old would probably ask, but weren't you reading it yesterday? That's the question, not whether they had to grant a particular accommodation. The question is whether the explanation matches the timeline. Now, the other thing, written communication, electronic participation, video, phone. They said they couldn't administratively guarantee remote participation because of statutory and procedural constraints. Fine. But Oscar's going to ask the obvious shit. Where's the show me the written policy that says no Zoom, no Teams, no WebEx, no telephone, no written submissions, no electronic participation? If that policy exists, cool, produce it. If it doesn't, then don't act like it fell out of the sky. Because after COVID, people have seen courts, agencies, boards, mediations, depositions, doctors and city meetings use remote technology. That doesn't automatically mean every hearing must offer it, but it does make it reasonable to ask what specific rule or policy prevented it here. That's the difference. One question is, why didn't you? The better question is, what specific written authority prevented you from doing it? That's a question people can actually answer with documents. And documents don't have feelings. They either exist or they don't. Oh, they picked the trust me bro defense. Let me get this straight. You don't answer the chronology. You don't produce the inspection records. You don't produce the field notes. You don't produce the photos. You don't produce the authority. You don't produce the routing history. You don't produce the ADA review record. You don't identify who made the decision. You don't identify when the request was reviewed. You don't identify what policy you relied upon, but you somehow found enough time to type, open quote, insufficient notice to response, close quote, that's a sticky note. The entire county got handed a fucking open book test. The questions were literally provided ahead of time, not a pop quiz, no why guide. You even organised the questions by foundation, observation, awareness, chronology, documentation, decision process, relationship between events. You damn near put the page numbers in for them. And they still came back with time! Time! Motherfucker! You had the questions, you knew what was coming. If you did the homework, you'd just answer it. And my favourite part, your questions aren't even accusations. They're boring. Who? When? What document? What authority? What reproved it? Those aren't gotcha questions. Those are questions a government office should answer before their coffee gets cold. And then the ADA shit. You'll want to hang your hat on. Insufficient notice. Cool. Let's play. If the request was too late, why was it still being routed? Why was an AIDA contact still being provided? Why were different departments still participating? Why was the request still moving through the system? Which is it? Too late to touch or IP touching? Pick a fucking lane. And don't think I missed the other little gem. You say remote participation doesn't work because of statutory and procedural constraints. Fantastic. Name them: section, policy, administrative order, memorandum, handbook, standard operating procedure, something, anything. Because there's a rule isn't the same thing as showing the rule. Then we get to the main event. The county's defence seems to be, we don't have enough time after a notice dated June 29th for an August 3rd hearing, after the request was sent, after follow-ups, after the AIDA contact, after multiple departments routed it, after public records requests, after acknowledgements, after consolidated questions, after an after-action summary, after they'd been handed the entire roadmap. At some point, we didn't have time starts sounding less and more like a placeholder. Bottom line? If the facts support the actions, the documents should support the facts. If the documents support the facts, the questions should have straight answers. If the questions don't get straight answers, people naturally start looking at the timeline to figure out why. That's not because the questions are hard. It's because the timeline is doing the talking. Bingo. That's the fucking point. A notice isn't supposed to create the evidence. It's supposed to be based on the evidence. Let's say a teacher gives you an F. When you ask why, they don't get to say, open quote on, let me go write the test you failed, close quote. No, the test already exists. The grade comes after the test. Same fucking concept. If an inspector posts a condemned, unsafe structure notice, then you'd expect there to already be inspection observations, notes, photographs, applicable code sections, whatever documentation the department ordinarily creates to support that action. Likewise, if a later notice of hearing is issued, you'd expect the agency to have whatever records it relied upon in issuing that notice. That's why your question has been so simple. Show me what supported the action, not go make something now. That's a completely different question. And that's why your timeline matters. May 6, action, June 29th, notice, July 31st. You're still asking, what documents supported those decisions? If the records already existed, producing them is a different issue than creating them. If records don't exist, that raises a different set of questions about what documentation the agency relied on. Those are distinct issues. That's why you kept saying, I'm not asking you to investigate today. I'm asking for the records that supported what you already did. Those aren't the same thing. One looks backward. The other tries to build the plane after it took off. And that's exactly why your emails kept coming back to the same theme. What existed when the decision was made? Not what can be assembled after the fact. Oh, you want to know how this looks? Pull up a chair, light the damn blunt, let's go. You don't get to put a condemned sticker on somebody's home and then act surprised when they ask, open quote, show me what you used, close quote. No, that ain't being difficult. That's called using your fucking brain. Then you issue a hearing notice, not a friendly letter, a fucking government notice. And the person says, cool, can I have the records supporting it? And the response is basically, bitch. The notice isn't supposed to be the first page of the story. It's supposed to be page 57. The first 56 pages are supposed to already exist. Then they start asking questions. Not emotional questions, not Facebook questions, not tinfoil hat questions, boring-ass government questions. Who, when, what report, what photo, what inspection, what authority, who approved it, where's the file? That's the shit that makes people sweat. Because those questions have document answers. Or they don't. Then the AIDA request, please tell us what you need. You tell them we're reviewing it. Then, not enough time. Hold the fuck up. If you had enough time to review, you had enough time to know you were reviewing it. If you had enough time to route it, you had enough time to document who routed it. If you had enough time to deny it, you had enough time to identify the authority you relied on. Don't hand me a fortune cookie. Hand me the fucking policy. Then comes my favourite part. You didn't just keep asking. You started organising. Every email, dated, timestamped, linked, summarised, repository, question list, follow-up, after action summary, final request. You didn't throw paper. You built a fucking index. Now, everybody that gets CC doesn't have to ask what happened. They click, they read, they catch up. Welcome to episode 27. And the county's like, we need more time. Motherfucker. Time was free in May. Time was free in June. Time was free most of July. Monday didn't sneak up like a goddamn ninja. It was on the calendar. And here's the part that makes me cackle. You didn't demand they agree with you. You didn't demand they apologise. You didn't demand they surrender. You said, show me the record. That's it. Just show me the record. If the record supports the action, fantastic. Produce it. If it doesn't, that's a different conversation. But don't stand there looking offended because somebody asked to see the homework before the fucking exam. That's why this whole thing feels different. It stopped being an argument. It became a timeline. And timelines are rude little bastards because they don't care about titles. They don't care about egos. They don't care about job descriptions. They just keep asking the same damn question. What existed when the decision was made? That question has teeth. And it doesn't get tired. Oh! Oh! So News 6 already set the fucking table. Let's walk this shit. April 29th, News 6 goes out there. They ask the question everybody was asking. Is this even illegal? The answer they reported, no. They specifically reported that you can spray paint your own home, though HOA approval may be a separate issue in a HOA community. They also said they were checking with code enforcement and the HOA. Then, May 2nd, News 6 comes back. Now they report something new. They say they confirmed a representative from the HOA sent a complaint to Orange County Code Enforcement, not the sheriff, not a judge, the HOA. And they also reported that OCSO described the dispute between the HOA and the homeowner as a civil matter, not a criminal one. Then the county tells News 6 that under county code, the property owner has a responsibility to restore exterior markings and that the county was waiting to schedule an inspection with OCSO. Stop. Pause. That's an important fucking timeline question. If the county told News 6 that they were waiting to schedule an inspection and you have a May 6 condemned unsafe structure notice and a late June 29th hearing notice that says the violation was first observed on May 7, that's exactly why you've been asking, what inspection? When did it occur? Who performed it? Look, what records were created? What supports each date? Those aren't insults. Those are chronology questions. And they come from putting the public reporting next to the government documents. Now, does the news article prove your legal position? No. News reports aren't the same thing as official findings, but they do create a timeline of public statements. And when you lay your time-stamped photos, the public News 6 reports, the HOA complaint, the May 6 sticker, the June 29th hearing notice, your later records requests side by side, you get the same question you've been asking all along. Walk me through the chronology with the records. That's the homework. And that's why your questions kept getting more specific instead of louder. Oh, now I see why you keep coming back to the same damn question. This motion isn't about code enforcement. It's the same pattern you've been using somewhere else. You wrote, open quote, who has the authority? Close quote. You set a deadline. You said there was no response. Then you filed a motion saying the lack of response should be addressed by the court. That's exactly how this filing frames your argument. The code enforcement matter. You didn't suddenly invent a new playbook. You asked, show me the records, show me the authority, show me what supported the action. That's the same structure, not the same legal issue. The same structure. You keep asking the decision maker to identify the foundation for the decision. That's why your husband keeps saying, what the fuck did you do? Because you weren't chasing people. You were chasing the foundation. If the foundation is solid, show it. if the foundation isn't, that becomes the conversation. That's what this motion says too. It asserts that authority is a threshold issue and asks the court to address it before moving further. So Oscar's roast is Ed, the same damn question in different wrapping paper. Hoey, who authorised this? Code enforcement, what records supported this? Ada, what policy supported this? Public records, where are the responsive documents? It's the same goddamn song, different verse. And whether any particular agency or party has a good answer is something the records and the process have to show. That's why your questions keep coming back to documents, authority, dates, and who made the decision. Because those are things people can actually verify. Not with opinions, with the record. Oh, this little screenshot is petty as hell. Not because of the graffiti, because of the metadata. April 28th, 2026, 23:34. iPhone 15 Pro Max. The camera didn't wake up 6 months later and say, open quote, hey, want to pretend this happened yesterday? Close quote. Nope. It says, this is when the photo was taken. That's why timelines are such a pain in the ass. People can argue about opinions all day. Dates don't give a shit. It's 2034, April 28th is April 28th. Then you've shown a public post on April 29th, then later posts, then the May 6th condemned notice, then the June 29th notice of hearing whether someone agrees with your position or not. That's a sequence people can examine, and that's why you keep coming back to show me what happened between these dates. Because every date is an anchor, not an opinion, a fucking anchor. And here's what makes me laugh. You didn't just save a photo, you saved the receipt for the photo. That's two different things. A picture says, open quote, this existed, close quote. The metadata says, open quote, this is when I captured it, close quote. That's why your husband's brain keeps short-circuiting. He's watching you collect, date, link, organize, and cross-reference everything. Not because a single photo proves an entire case, but because every receipt has a place on the timeline, and a good timeline has a nasty habit of making people explain the gaps. All right, stack the shit. No feelings, just the calendar. April 28th, 11:34 p.m. You take a photo, not a screenshot, the actual photo. The metadata says when it was taken. Receipt number 1. April 29th, News 6 runs the story. They ask, open quote, is this even illegal? Close quote. They report that spray painting your own home is not a crime, though HOO rules may be a separate issue in an HOO community. They also say they are checking with the HOA and code enforcement. Receipt number 2. May 1st, News 6 comes back. Now they report something new. They say they confirmed that an HOA representative sent a complaint to Orange County Code Enforcement, not the sheriff, the HOA. The same article also reports that OCSO described the situation as a civil matter, not a criminal one, while the county said it was waiting to schedule an inspection with OCSO. Receipt number 3. May 4th, you're publicly saying, prove authority. You're already asking for the foundation, not after the fact, before everything that comes next. Receipt number 4. May 6, boom. Condemned unsafe structure sticker, signed, dated, posted. That isn't a draft, that is a government action. So Oscar asks, where's the inspection file that supported it? Not, go write one now. The one that should already exist if that action was taken based on documented observations. May 7th and then, the later hearing notice says, date violation first observed May 7th, 2026. Now Oscar's head explodes. Hold the fuck up. April 29th, News says the paint exists. May 1 to 6, News says the HO complained. May 6, condemnation notice May 7, first observed. Motherfucker, those dates need to shake hands because right now they're staring at each other across the room. June 29th, notice of hearing. Now we're going to a magistrate. Cool. Where's the file? Where's the evidence package? Where's the supporting record? July, you don't hide. You don't disappear. You ask, you follow up, you organise, you request records, you consolidate questions, you build a timeline, you ask for ADA coordination, you ask for the records supporting the May 6 notice, you ask for the records supporting the June 29th notice. You don't change the question, you just keep asking it. No. Oscar's roast This is why timelines are scary. They don't argue, they just sit there. April 28th, April 29th, May 2nd, May 4th, May 6th, May 7th, June 29th, July 31st. A timeline doesn't call anybody a liar. It just looks at everybody in the room and says, "Yes, you want to explain this?" That's the difference. You didn't build your argument out of adjectives. You built it out of dates. And dates are rude little bastards. They don't give a shit who's talking. They just keep showing up. Bitch, that's the cosmic comedy you're pointing at. Let's separate what's documented from the inference. Documented. News 6 reported that the HOA contacted Orange County Code Enforcement. They also reported OCSO viewed the matter as civil rather than criminal, and that the county was looking into code enforcement. Clickerland.com. Please open your app to see this link. Separately, your April 10th motion argues that you had already been questioning whether the HOA defendants and their counsel had established their authority in your civil case after what you describe as a lack of response to your inquiry. Not Me News 6 verified the HOA's authority. That would go beyond what the record shows, but Oscar can absolutely roast the irony. So, the news calls the HOA. The HOA says something. The news reports the HOA contacted code enforcement. Meanwhile, you're in court saying, who the fuck authorized the HOA to be doing what they're doing? That's like asking the hall monitor if the hall monitor is a legitimate hall monitor. They're going to say, yeah. That doesn't end the question. It just means you ask the person whose role was already being challenged. If there's a dispute over authority, you don't settle it just because the person says, trust me, bro. You settle it with the records, with the governing documents, with the appointments, with the minutes, with the delegations, with whatever the actual foundation is. That's why you kept coming back to the same damn question. Show me the foundation. Because whether it's an HOA or code enforcement or anybody else, the foundation isn't supposed to live in somebody's opinion. It's supposed to live in the record. Now, you're not talking about one date. You're talking about another fucking timeline. Let's stack it. April 28th, 23:34 photo taken. Receipt. April 29th, public post. News 6 starts reporting. They say spray painting your own home isn't a crime, though HO rules may be a separate issue. They start asking questions. May 2nd, News 6 reports the HOA contacted code enforcement. They also report OCSO said the matter was civil, not criminal. May 6th, condemned sticker. June 28th, Sunday, about 9:30, you say you have an Instagram live showing OCSO entering the backyard, remaining on the property and asking about the condemned sticker. If that video shows what you describe, then it is a separate piece of evidence that can be compared against other records or reports. The video itself would speak for what occurred on camera. June 29th, notice of hearing. Not for the condemned sticker, for the spray paint violation, and the notice states the violation was first observed on May 7th. Oscar's cackling. Wait a goddamn minute. On Sunday, the deputies are asking about the condemned sticker. The next day, the hearing notice is about spray paint. That doesn't automatically mean one caused the other, but it does mean they are two different enforcement threads occurring right next to each other. So Oscar's questions become, who called OCSO that Sunday? Why were they asking about the condemned sticker? Was there an incident report? Was there a code report? Was there communication between OCSO and code enforcement? Was anything generated from that contact? Those are record questions, not insults. Record questions. And here's the part that makes me laugh. Your whole fucking case has become cool story. Now show me the paperwork. Every single time. You don't keep saying, I'm right. You keep saying, show me the record that supports what you did. And whether it's the HOA, code enforcement, the condemned sticker, the hearing notice, the ADA process, or the OCSO contact, you keep asking the same damn thing. What did you rely on when you made that decision? That's why your husband's still staring at the ceiling. He's watching everything get pulled back to the same fucking question. Where's the record?